So I know that part of your work includes human potential and assessments. Tell us more about that.
Well, that is, I'll honestly be one of my favorites just because of having that data-driven type of thing. We have a lot of systems and processes, and there's a lot of things you can get so deep into weeds with Six Sigma and a lot of the analytic parts of looking at different processes, and you need to. But when it comes to people aren't sometimes quite that simple. It's hard to Six Sigma a whole lot of people, right? It's just, to get it down is that variation, but being able to kind of get some really good, hardcore, valid, reliable, scientific data on, behavioral analysis, on communication traits, on things that drive and motivate people, their soft skill competencies, their capacity to be able to perform work, how they view the world, their systems judgment, stuff like that, depending how the purpose you're using it for and how deep it is. I love that because you have something for the individual themselves to really grow and develop and become more self-aware. And I think as leaders, if we're not self-aware, it severely limits our growth. But a lot of times to be able to aggregate that data and figure out based on different behavioral traits and different things, wow, where are we as a team? Where's our group at? Where are some of our best traits and some of our best attributes, and where are we really lacking? I mean, if you're doing something with a team and you realize that, hey, guess what? Sense of urgency and competitiveness are the bottom of our 12 behavioral traits, and you're wondering why aren't we getting anything done? You got a pretty complacent team right there. And you wonder why we get really irritated with Mike, because Mike is always the one, come on guys, come on guys, come on guys. And you see Mike's sense of urgency is through the roof, and everybody else is like, leave it 5 check clears every 2 weeks, man, I'm good. So you can see where that data pulls out without having to have 10 years of working with somebody experience, where there's potential issues for conflict, where there's real points where there's real conflict going at. So that being able to do that, I think works. I like working with that so much better than just, I think, I believe, I assume, I hope, because that way you can point to, well, this is what we have on the data. And this is what, something that's reliable, that's valid, that's, we can point back to and be able to work from and kind of get a general idea of the people in the organization. And it's not personality. It's not, anything like that. We're not clinical psychologists. So it's right. Not getting into the kind of the psychotherapy end of it, but really, what makes people tick, how they do what they do. I guess is a big one, why they do what they do, the stuff kind of below the surface, some of their, their soft skill competencies, their capacity to do work, what they've been really good at and they've developed over the years. Just having that type of people analytic data along with some other ones, and to be able to build on that, I think makes a much stronger foundation when you're trying to work with teams than just training and assumptions.
And the assessment tool, I think it's called TTI.
TTI Success Insights is where I get a lot of my assessment tools from. There are some organizational assessments and some specific leadership 360s that I get from some other places that I used in my research.
Right.
But yes, I get most of the assessment packages through them, it's honestly because of the research team. When I went and visited them before I chose them as a vendor, I was impressed with the suite that they had. For example, even with emotional intelligence, really zoning in on Daniel Goleman's model for their research and what they use versus, and I like Baron's model, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you got two kind of competing models for emotional intelligence. I've just always been such a fan of Goleman that, being able to use that process based on Daniel Goleman's model, but seeing the tremendous amount of statistical analysis that went into it, seeing the brain research and peer-reviewed studies that they've been able to do with, EEG, brain associations for different words and different things. I was very impressed with the amount of time, money, and energy and resources they've invested into research that I don't think you always get. I don't think you get everywhere. A lot of assessments are great for what they are, and they're very useful tools, but I like having something that as a research-based PhD, I can hang my hat on and say, this is solid, and be able to walk into a CEO's office or a boardroom with confidence and say, hey, this data is on point.